All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. You know, Mike Bloomberg's tenure as king of the nannies comes to an end. He'll still be the chief nanny, but he will no longer be the king nanny of New York. His third term as mayor will end this year, and we will have another mayor, thank goodness. And I got to tell you, I'm sitting next to a man who served as Bronx borough president, and then was tapped by the Barack Obama administration, or Barack Obama himself, in 2010, confirmed by the U.S. Senate as regional administrator of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for Region 2, which encompasses New York and New Jersey. He subsequently left the Obama administration, left the Democratic Party, is running for mayor of New York as an independent, and we'll talk about also his battle to get on the Republican ticket as well. We say hello to Adolfo Carrion. Hello, sir.
Great to be here, Steve. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My
Delighted.
pleasure. You know, I got to tell you, I said as I was promoting this interview earlier in the show, I said that if you, you know, a rising star in the Democratic Party, that media friendliness or that media availability, those doors that would normally be open to someone like you, a very, very articulate, young, energetic man of color, candidate, you know, on the rise.
I like the young especially.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. That door, those media doors, as you probably know, are now going to get smaller and smaller because, you know, now you're not one of them. Now you left the Democratic Party, and now you're viewed as there's got to be something wrong with you.
Well, you know, Steve, it's a very interesting dynamic, and I'm glad you started there because, you know, what has happened is we've created a culture of journalism that covers principally the two main parties. You know, there's always a debate about what bias there is in the media, but we're now kicking the doors open, and you know, I'm making sure that I get invited to the Democrat forums and debates, to the Republican forums and debates, to the issue-based forums and debates, because we need to offer the voters a third voice and a third way, and that's why I became an independent. You know, we're experiencing paralysis at the local level. Some of the stuff you talked about, you know, I just issued a statement today in response to this silliness that's coming out of the city council about allowing non-citizens to vote. The single most important thing, you know, element of the franchise that we have is the ability to vote. It's a sacred responsibility. How could we just give it away, and let alone the national security, you know, ramifications of that?
I told people, I said, if you're standing up, sit down. If you're sitting down, lie down. If you're lying down, I don't know what to tell you. But now I want to get more involved with that because Christine Quinn, who could be the Democratic nominee out of all this for mayor, she's the president of the city council, and she is behind this. She's also behind the bill that would require mandatory sick pay leave for people in New York City.
Which passed yesterday. And it's apparently veto-proof.
Yeah, the mayor says, to his credit, Mr. Nanny says he will veto that, and he would veto the non-citizens bill. I don't know if that non-citizens bill is veto-proof, but the other one on the sick pay is.
Well, in a council of 51 members, what you need is 34 votes.
Right.
They seem to have secured 34 votes, but that's what they're saying. That's the spin.
Yeah.
Chris Quinn, apparently, I mean, I saw a statement today coming out of her office that she's not quite there yet. She's not convinced that it's the right path. But
on the citizen? The non-citizen? Okay.
Yeah. But here's the thing. It goes to committee. The committee will support it because obviously it was drafted there. It then comes to the speaker, and she has the choice
to bring it or not,
to put it on the floor or not. And I think this is going to be a test of her leadership, her character, her judgment, and what New Yorkers and Americans are looking for is people who have judgment and character, who are going to call them as they see them, who are not going to be beholden to the parties or the special interests. Which I hope that some of these folks will stand up to this nonsense.
Well, I got to tell you, my prediction is she will not bring it because. Even though in her heart she wants it and might do it, you know, under different circumstances, I don't think she wants that baggage around her neck running for mayor. But let's talk about you. Bronx Borough President, did a lot in the Bronx, got a lot done, but ran into, you know, I think we were talking when we were together the other night about the effort to keep, was it Walmart or some business out of the Bronx, and how, you know, they cut their nose to spite their face if they couldn't get enough. The living wage issue, I think, is what you talked about.
Yeah, we were trying to redevelop the Kingsbridge Armory. We set it up on a silver platter for my successor. It would have created almost 2,000 permanent jobs.
In the Bronx, 2,000 permanent jobs.
In a place that has some of the highest unemployment rates.
Right.
And unfortunately, my successor decided that the litmus test for any investor coming into the Bronx was that they had to pay retail a living wage. Now,
which is way above the minimum wage.
Above the minimum wage, and what it did was it scared away the investment community. And he unfortunately said something that was really shocking. He said, "No job is better than a job that pays too low." I come from a tradition and a family that scraped their way up. It was very aspirational. I believe in that. I believe that the best social program is a job. I said it when I was running for city council. I was one of those rare Democrats. I said it when I was running for borough president. In fact, when I decided to run for borough president, what we said was, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to open up the Bronx for business because we need to get these folks that have been locked in poverty, Steve, for generations. They've been dependent on government for generations. That's not the intent of a government program. It's supposed to be a rung on a ladder. It's supposed to be a web and a safety net to allow you to stand up, get yourself together, and move forward. Get an education, get a job, start a business, all the stuff that is essentially American. And so that's been my mode and my worldview, and I still carry it to today, where I think New York City has to remain the global leader for business, the global leader in finance and culture, a magnet for investment, for innovation. That's the only way we're going to move forward.
We're talking to Adolfo Carrion here on the Steve Malzberg Show. He's running for mayor of New York. So much I want to talk to you about. Since we're talking policy here, let's shift gear a little bit and talk about this proposal to in my view, handcuff Ray Kelly in the New York City Police Department with someone who would have oversight over him, someone that he would report to. Here you have one of the most successful police departments in the world that has kept the city safe when it comes to terrorism. The drop in crime has been tremendous. And, you know, again, Christine Quinn, for one, favors, and the mayor, to his credit, doesn't, you know, putting someone in a position of authority, if you will, over Ray Kelly, where he would have to, you know, go to him or share responsibility or whatever. I mean, why on earth would you mess with something that is so obviously working so well?
You know, we went from 2,600 murders in the 1980s to last year just above 400. It was almost a 90%
Amazing.
drop.
Yep.
It's become the safest city in America, practically the largest, safest large city. It has, as a result, been able to attract investment, been able to sustain itself through the Great Recession, a near-second Great Depression. And why? Why is it that 52 million tourists came here and generated 350,000 jobs?
Because they're not afraid.
There's confidence.
Yeah.
They know that they're going to be safe even after 9/11. So anybody who purports to be mayor needs to own the accountability and responsibility to keep the city safe. And they shouldn't have a third party that they can point to and say, well, you know, it's not my fault, it's that person's fault, or they didn't monitor us properly.
Or a third person who, if I might interrupt, would force a change in successful policy.
Absolutely. We've had a very successful policy. We have police tactics. Look, you can always tweak. You're never perfect. Of course, there are certain things you can fix. Stop and frisk is a tool that has been used by police officers since the beginning of time. The question is how you apply it. Is there respect involved? Is there an over-application? There's probably some logic to that. But to irresponsibly pander and say we're going to throw it out, we're going to give it to an inspector general and cede my authority, I think is irresponsible. There is too much that we have gained, and there is too much at stake, Steve, to allow anybody else but the chief executive of New York City to be responsible for that important element.
Let me ask you. You, as I mentioned, your position in HUD within the Obama administration, very prestigious position, very prestigious opportunity, which you took on, but you left, and you left the Obama administration, and you left over what in your mind at least were real differences with the Obama administration. Elaborate on that.
Well, you know, I was invited by the president. My first position there was at the White House as the director of urban affairs at the White House. And the whole idea there was, I still believe it's a smart idea, where you acknowledge that the cities and metropolitan areas of the nation are the economic engines. So you've got to invest in smart ways. And you've got to allow local planning and local control, and that the federal government ought to be a supporting actor of those local activities to generate the kinds of economies that will keep us competitive globally. And it's all about jobs, 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 the economy. The president and his team, and there were differences in there, made a choice, and look, the book will be written, so there will be all these arguments that happened internally will obviously come out.
You could tell us some now.
But I will tell you this: there was a split between the folks who said we've got to only do health care, and that's the legacy piece, versus we're entering a potential second Great Depression. Let's rescue the economy. It's the economy, stupid. You know,
and the healthcare folks won.
And the healthcare folks won. You know, look, we came to the precipice. We almost fell over. There was a lot of intervention that needed to take place. Both sides of the aisle recognized that. At the end of the day, I said to the president, I'm coming back home because all politics is local. I've got to go take care of my city, my beloved city. So that's how I ended up coming back. And I'm glad I did, Steve, because we're at such a critical point now. We can backslide from the advances we've made. I don't know how long you've been in New York City, but I was a teenager in the 1970s when it was a dangerous...
How old are you?
I'm 52 years old.
Well, I'm 2 years older than you, so
I
grew
like
up in New York.
Yeah,
I guess you look a lot younger than you are.
Young. We are young.
Okay.
And I grew up in the city of the 70s. The subways were covered with graffiti.
Oh, absolutely.
There were panhandlers on the subways and buses. It was just terrible. If you came to Times Square as a tourist, they scared the heck out of you.
And then it got worse. I mean, with the culminated with the Dinkins administration with the squeegee guys, and the murders peaked over 2,000 there and whatever. It was awful.
It was an awful place, and we've turned it around. We've moved it in the right direction. There is no way we can go back. And the way we don't go back is to keep it safe, to ensure that we finally fix the school system. You know, the people are begging for reform. There's a lot of interests in the way that have kept us from reform.
That is something that unites everybody, the Hispanic community, the black community, any community. They all want the best for their kids, and it's just this, I hate to use this tired expression, it's this black hole. We just keep throwing the money and they say we don't spend enough on education. We spend more than any other country in the world.
We do.
And we fail miserably.
And New York City spends a lot of money on education. What we need is real reform that gives authority back to the principal, the teacher, involves the parent, raises the standard. You know, and this whole notion of teaching to the test and this new regime that's been created, what we need is real teaching happening in the classroom and an aspirational environment that rewards success for teachers and students.
Merit pay and all?
Merit pay. Look, you know, these professionals come into the profession. Why? Because they want to succeed. They want to excel. They want to be the best. And when you excel, you get rewarded. And if you fail, and if you don't excel, you should be removed from the profession.
So let me
be malpractice.
So let me ask you why, Adolfo. If you had to sum up in a minute or so, why, not while you're running for mayor, I'll give you that at the end, but why did you leave the Democratic Party?
You know, many of those same reasons that I enumerated. I represent a community. The Latinos are the fastest growing sector of the American population. You know, the projections are really wild. I mean, by the middle of the century, a third of the U.S. population will have some sort of connection to Latin America and Hispanic heritage and all that stuff. This community, my beloved community, has been loyal to the Democratic Party for 50, 60 years. And the question is, are we better off? And you can point to certain things, you know, working conditions, yes. There's obviously, we've dealt with some discrimination issues in society that are significant. But the question at the end of the day is, what are the important measures? Are you better educated? Are you climbing the economic ladder? Are you represented in corporate America, in the sciences, in education, in corporate boards? Are you represented in every aspect of society that is a demonstration of success? And the unfortunate resounding answer is no. There are people trapped in poverty because they have become dependent on an outside agent. The essence of what it is to be American is to be aspirational.
And that outside agent is the government.
Is unfortunately the government.
And you feel, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that the Democratic policies just perpetuates that?
Well, you know what? I think that there are crutches that we have allowed people to lean on for beyond their useful life, if you will.
Okay.
Because there's an importance to making sure that people don't fall all the way down.
Temporary fixes.
Absolutely. You need temporary help. But when you have generation after generation living in housing projects that were built for transitional steps in the economy, then you have a problem.
So do you think the rest of the Hispanic community or a great number of the Hispanic community will follow you?
I think there is terrible frustration out there, and people are way ahead of the politicians on just about every issue. And you can go down the pop issues today, and the people have run ahead of the politicians. What they want is results, and that's why they voted outside their comfort zone here in New York. Here you have a 6-1 Democrat city,
and Bloomberg,
and 5 elections. Yeah, 3 times Bloomberg.
Right, and Giuliani.
He cheated out that
third. Yeah, I know.
Term.
He was a Democrat, independent, whatever.
No, but he got the 3rd term because
you changed the rules, absolutely, and he barely won with outspending Thompson. I mean, astronomically.
Yeah, like 10 to 1 or more. You know, and then Giuliani 2 terms.
Yeah.
And what people are saying is, look, we want a grown-up who's going to keep the city safe, fix the education system, make sure that that it's a pro-business, pro-growth environment. That's why we're here.
And that's why you're not a Democrat, because you don't feel that is conducive to what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And look, we entered a conversation with the Republicans about the possibility of doing what Bloomberg did. They invited me to the discussion.
I
welcome the opportunity. It would be a great opportunity for the Republican National Committee to make a gesture to this,
couldn't agree more.
This growing community. And frankly, look, the Hispanics are people of faith. They're people of family.
Absolutely.
They are hardworking.
They have conservative Republican values.
They generally are conservative people.
Yeah.
And what has happened, unfortunately, is I think there's a little bit of a lulling that's been going on, and it puts to sleep that spirit of aspiration and entrepreneurialism.
So you're trying to get on the Republican ticket and running as an independent as
I'm running as an independent. I agree with Republican principles of low taxes. Please, government, stay out of my personal business as much as possible, and keep our society safe. And make sure that the systems that are supposed to, the platform works so that we can all aspire. And I hope that the Republican Party at the national level will embrace this opportunity. I think at the local, look, it plays out locally in different ways. My hope is that the local party will see the wisdom in this.
I couldn't agree more. Adolfo, pleasure talking to you. Really
Thank
a pleasure,
you.
and good luck, and we'll talk to you again. Adolfo Carrion, ladies and gentlemen, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. One final short segment coming up. Don't miss it.
The Steve Malzberg Show.